Hello, world. Welcome to episode 162 of the Jimmy Canz Show. It's a classic supercard retrospective time. Let's take a look back at WCW Wrestle War 1992. All right. Um, Obviously, this is a WCW promoted event. It was held uh, from Jacksonville, Florida, in the Jacksonville Memorial Coliseum on May the 17th, 1992. Was broadcast live on pay-per-view, later released on VHS, courtesy of Turner Home Entertainment. 6,000 in attendance. Action called by Jim Ross and Jesse the Body Ventura. 9 matches on this card. Let's discuss them. All right. Out of the gate, we had a WCW United States Tag Team Championship matchup. Champions at the time, the team of Greg the Hammer Valentine and the Tailor Made Man, uh, taking on the Fabulous Freebirds, one Jimmy Jam Garvin and Michael P.S. Hayes. The Birds end up capturing the titles here in this one after a Garvin DDT on Taylor. Really wasn't a lot of build, honestly, to this. There wasn't a lot of story behind it. It's just a basic title match. So, there's no real story here, but solid tag team match. I mean, you got 4 solid hands in the ring there. Um, Next up, kind of a oddball match up, to be honest with you. You have the now babyface Johnny B. Bad taking on Tracy Smothers. Why, Smothers from the Young Pistols is in singles action here doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. The babyface turn here by Bad, they're really trying to build him up. Obviously, he picks up the W around 7 minutes, hitting the old kiss that don't miss, that big uh, punch of his. What was his finisher at the time, playing into his true Golden Glove boxing background. Next up, um, 2 youngsters. You have the young Marcus Alexander Bagwell taking on Scotty Flamingo, the future Johnny Polo, the future Raven. Um, uh, you know, Scotty gets the W here in around 7 minutes with a roll up. Uh, it's kind of his first, not kind of, it is his first pay per view appearance with WCW. So I guess they're trying to build him up a little bit. So some logical booking there. There's not really any story or beef here, but there you have it. Next up, you have the All American Ron Simmons facing Mr. Hughes next with Cactus Jack in his corner. This was originally promoted as a tag match with Hughes and Jack versus Simmons and JYD. It was changed to a one-on-one due to Cactus attacking and taking out JYD before the bell. I think, honestly, I think they originally probably wanted this to be Jack and Abdullah, but Abdullah and WCW had parted ways by this point, so they just plugged Mr. Hughes into it because they had started to build up this situation. The last show with Jack and Abdullah realigning and attacking Simmons after a match with JYD making the save. Obviously, we all know the quote unquote demons that JYD faced at this point in his life, starting to catch up with him a little bit. I think they decided to just kind of move in a different direction, move toward establishing other talent rather than kind of recycling previous talent, so to speak. So they kind of wrote him out there to give Simmons more of the spotlight. So, Simmons gets the victory here, not a big shock. Next up, Harley Race's newest man, the Super Invader, faces Todd Champion from the Patriots. Invader actually was the recently signed Ray Fernandez, known more broadly around the wrestling industry as Hercules. He's now left the land of Titan signed with WCW, and they stick him under a mask and uh, try and pass him off as being from Japan. um, the Invader gets the win here with the power bomb. Not too big of a shock. Like champion is a tag team specialist more or less, and they're trying to get over this new gimmick uh, for Fernandez. So there you have it. Next up, you have Big Josh taking on Richard Morton. Morton was a replacement, actually, for the Diamond Stud. Scott Hall had left WCW shortly before the pay per view to sign with the WWF. So they just needed to kind of pull an audible here, look for a pinch hitter. And Morton was, a replacement. It's no shock that Josh goes over here. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to uh, have your replacement individual come in with no real build and no real story and get a W here. So your winner, Big Josh. Next up, we have a matchup for the WCW Light Heavyweight Championship. Uh, you have the champion, Flying Brian Pillman, taking on his friend and former partner, the Z-Man. Really solid match. A lot of good chain wrestling, high flying counters. Very modern style match for 1992. This was a type of contest that wouldn't be out of place on a card nowadays. It's kind of revolutionary for the time period. Pillman does retain here with a roll up. Next up, odd contest, honestly, on a WCW show. You have a number one contendership match for the IWGP Tag Team Championships. You have the team of the Steiner brothers, Rick and Scott, former IWGP Tag Champs in their own right, taking on the team of Takayuki Iizuka and Tatsumi the Dragon Fujinami. It's pretty predictable here. Why would they have this contest on a WCW show if the WCW talent weren't going to win this one? Which is exactly what happens. Like I said, it's very predictable. Why would you have a New Japan championship contendership matchup on a U.S. program if you weren't going to have the U.S. team go over? So, and then last but not least, on this show, we have War Games. It was the team of WCW champion, the Stinger, joined by the Russian Nightmare, Nikita Koloff, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Barry Windham, and the Natural Dustin Rose, facing the Dangerous Alliance, consisting of United States champion Ravishing Rick Rude, World Television champion Stunning Steve Austin, the Cruncher Larry Zbyszko, and World Tag Team champions Beautiful Bobby Eaton and the Enforcer Double A Arn Anderson. Obviously, the Dangerous Alliance have Medusa and Paul E. Out there with them. It's a War Games. It's long. It's got a lot of crazy spots in it. Sting makes Eaton submit after Zbyszko accidentally hits Eaton with a turnbuckle connector. As the plunder, if you will, Daddy is brought out in full force during this matchup. If memory serves, I'm pretty sure this led to Zbyszko being drummed out of the Dangerous Alliance. At this point, they kind of blamed him for the loss and what have you. So, yeah. And then, I'm also think, and like I said, I might be totally mistaken. I think this might be the last WCW pay-per-view that the television championship is actually represented by the NWA television title. I think it was pretty shortly after this they finally got the WCW branded and designed title belt for that, as they kind of they have broken away from the NWA at this point in time. But that doesn't last. We'll get into that in a little bit. So this was the card. it was okay. You did have a lot of Hall of Fame involvement in the show. I mean, you have 19 Hall of Famers. Race, Valentine, Steamboat, Austin, Anderson, Wyndham, Simmons, Foley, Zabisco, Medusa, um, Fujinami, Sting, uh, Hayes, Garvin from the Birds, Rick Rude, Ricky Morton, both Steiner brothers. Our latest Hall of Fame inductee, Paul Heyman. So, yeah, like I said, a lot of Hall of Fame involvement. If you plug in, some of the non-in-ring type of individuals or non-storyline individuals, I guess there's a better way to look at, you can add Jim Ross and Ventura there. For sure, Bischoff was doing interviews. There's another three. Um, so it's like what, 22. But there were some real misses on this show, to be honest. You know, um, War Games in and of itself. I mean, you have pretty much all your major uh, championships involved in that War Games match, so none of them are defended. Your world champion, your United States champion, your television champion, and your world tag team champion, all in that match. So the only title matches we get in the show are the U.S. Tag Team Championship matchup, which these are titles that are slowly dwindling and dying. Same thing with the World Light Heavyweight Championship. This is not getting the kind of exposure that it really should. This does set the stage in the future for the birth of the cruiserweight division. But like at this point in time, it's really not hitting. Especially, you've got some uh, booking changes behind the scenes coming into fruition around this time frame. I'm pretty sure it was right around here or shortly after here that they hired Bill Watts, who had a totally different mindset of what professional wrestling should be. Very old fashioned, very old mindset, which was not very forward thinking. So, you know, um, like I said, most of these single matches didn't have any real story behind them. Wrestling is a combination of action and story. And outside of the war games, there really wasn't much story in this card. There wasn't a you know, storied feud and chasing for the U.S. tag. There wasn't any kind of real story behind the light heavyweight defense. I mean, you had two former partners, but there was no real animosity there. Um, the other single matches were just kind of slapped together. IWGP number one contendership made no sense to have on this show. I mean, like I said, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. The quality, the in-ring quality was solid. Uh, there was no story, and it's so important. I think if we learned anything from this past weekend with Cody finishing his story and how good that story was told, it tells you exactly how important story really is in professional wrestling. So, out of 10 belts, this is not a very good show. It's a mediocre show. It's five. And that's only because the wrestling in and of itself was solid, but there was no story behind anything. So it was just kind of meh. There was nothing really cringe or bad, but there was nothing like, wow, I can't wait for such and such after this. So yeah, just kind of meh. And like I said, for as much Hall of Fame involvement on the show as there was to just kind of be meh, um, it tells you they need to find things need to change. They do decide to make a change. Unfortunately, it's not the right one. We'll get into that down the road. Next up, we will discuss in the retrospectives the Clash of the Champions 19. So tune in for that one. a unusual clash. So just be pre-warned on that one. So, give us a like, give us a share, give us a subscribe. Wherever you are, we hope you're doing well. Take care of one another, and I will see you all when I see you.